You're the guy people call when they need a helping hand, moving furniture, unloading a truck. But lately, your shoulder's been acting up, and you're the one who's calling for help. And that's the moment you realize you can no longer shoulder the load.
The Joint and Spine Center is Cincinnati's leading destination for orthopedic care, with a range of surgical and non-surgical treatments. So when a moment has the power to change the rest of your life, go to the one place with the power to change it for the better, the Christ Hospital Health Network. This changes everything.
The Pound This Podcast is brought to you by the Christ Hospital Health Network. This is the Pound This Podcast, episode 695, Nutrition, Wellness, and Bus Life with empowering life coach Jerry LaBonte.
I want to lose weight, but I don't know how to get started.
What should I meal prep every week?
How do I get those sweet booty gains?
Inspiration for your healthy lifestyle. The Pound This Podcast with Amanda Valentine.
Thank you so much for listening to the Pound This Podcast. I am Amanda Valentine, excited to chat with my guest today, Jerry LaBonte, living in his bus right now. You're currently in your bus, right?
I am.
Where is your bus parked?
We are in Illinois, in Bloomfield or something.
Bloomington?
I don't know. Bloomington, that's the one.
Okay. I grew up in Illinois, so I know kind of where you're at there. I worked in Champaign, so you drove past Champaign to go to Bloomington. So
all right. I love that you know this, because I don't know really any of this surroundings. Right?
Well,
I pulled up to my friend's place. I parked, and it's like I haven't really took my head up to check out the surrounding area.
Well, it's not that exciting, so you're not really missing too much. But I saw, so my friend Natalie that I used to work with at the radio station, she posted like an Instagram story with you in it. And then I saw your Instagram name and I was like, oh, this guy's a health coach. Who is this dude living in a bus? And I asked her and I was like, would this guy be interested in being on my podcast? She's like, yeah, here's his information. And I'm like, oh, cool. Because I'm like, I got to know this guy. I got to know what you're up to. And so I've been kind of stalking you a little bit on Instagram and just basically, seeing a lot of your, kind of motivational videos, and you have some, movement videos, and then you're living out of a bus. There's a lot to unpack here, and I'm very excited to unpack this.
Yeah.
So I guess start from the beginning of kind of like where you grew up and where you kind of got an interest in like health and nutrition.
Right on. Well, thanks for showing me the attention, and thanks for stalking the Instagram and just having me on the show. I'm really excited about this. I feel very lucky to be here. So thank you for that first.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So it's a passion for fitness. It's a passion for nutrition, but I think for me, it's really a passion of just helping people. I guess where to start. Started with me working in my dad's kitchen at 12 years old. If you don't, I guess child labor laws don't equate to people in the family. So I got to start washing dishes, bossing, helping with catering jobs. I'm 12 years old. And then in high school, I joined the wrestling team, football team. And then in college, I wrestled. And then I played rugby in college as well. And then I went and coached both of those for a while. So I went from an athlete to then a coach, and what I call now is like more movement coaching. Went on to coach CrossFit. And then through CrossFit found a new passion for food. When I was, I graduated high school in 2001, and really the internet wasn't what it is today, so there wasn't so much information readily available, and there was just a lot of unanswered questions about nutrition and frustrating things. And especially for me, I struggled with my weight. I don't know if you've ever heard stories of what wrestlers will do to lose weight. I've done all of that. Wearing trash bags to running dozens of miles instead of sleeping, all sorts of things. And so when I got back into CrossFit coaching and personal training, understanding about low carb diets, whole food diets, inflammation and things like that, all of a sudden it started to really click for me, because I realized the information I was given about the food pyramid wasn't working through drastic, like all sorts of tests that I personally did for myself and then other wrestlers did around me. And so it really started resonating with me. And then because of my experience with my dad working in his restaurant, I was then able to, like, you know, my clients, they'd be like, I'm really craving potato chips. And I'm like, well, it sounds like, have you been using salt with stuff? And they're like, no. I'm like, salt's completely healthy. Use salt. And I was able to help people with recipes and all sorts of things. So it was a wormhole for me. I just kept, you know, book after book. I love Michael Pollan. And so it went from a movement coach, fitness coach, to nutrition coach. And then it started to study habits and, the rational brain versus the emotional brain, and got into working through limiting beliefs. And at about that same time, I went through a pretty rough breakup. And so I had to do my own emotional healing. And kind of like before, I'd gone to a couple of therapists. I went the kind of more conventional route. And it was like I was getting a lot of answers that just weren't working for me. And it just wasn't empowering me as in my own journey to heal myself and get as healthy and as free as I wanted to be. And so I started, researching about communication styles, and then realized about codependency and narcissism and all sorts of things like that. And so I guess and that's where I really identified as my coaching. It wasn't a movement coach. It wasn't just a personal trainer. I wasn't just a health coach with nutrition and fitness. I'm helping people live happier and healthier lives so they feel more empowered to be themselves, more empowered to live into their purpose and follow their dreams. So it's been a long journey, but I feel like it's something that I've been doing my entire life. And it's now that I'm on the road and sharing my magic or my medicine with the world, and I take my clients over the phone, so I'm still seeing my clients on a regular basis, which is really nice to kind of stay connected as I travel throughout the world. I still have my staples, the people that I get to talk to each week and stuff. So it's really nice for me to have my clients, not just that they're paying me, but that just another great rhythm to be in.
So is that pretty much what you're doing, is like all online coaching?
Yeah, that's what it is. I do, because I journal, I post so much about food and stuff. I do get a lot of inquiries to kind of like I've gone and cooked for a couple of retreats. Randomly, I'll get. I used to manage catering companies, so I get asked to do a lot of private chefing. I've been a private chef for a little while. At one point in my life, I was a private chef that we would fly around, and I got paid to fly in a private jet, which was that was pretty exciting. It didn't last long, but it was cool.
So bougie.
Yeah.
So what are your favorite things to cook? Like, what does your diet look like?
Good question. And this is one thing I love to ask so many chefs. For me, I don't do a lot of the big meal prep for the week. I like to have, I like to make the meals as they come. And I do make, I'll make 2 or 3 times more than I can eat in a day. So there's extra. But for me, I think I love making eggs each day. It's like the blank canvas. I can add whatever spices and kind of test out different flavors in there. And it's fairly easy. But then it's also like wherever you go, you can always get like a pretty high quality egg by doing a little research, driving down back roads and getting a farm stand. And also they're really easy to always have. They're like pretty shelf stable. And it's just, a bunch of vegetables, scramble. I do this I do this method that I think I learned from Gordon Ramsay. I'm not sure. It's called snotty eggs. So it's, with like sunny side up eggs, mm-hmm. with the yolk is still runny. Well, nutrition wise, the runny yolk, but the cooked white is the best for your body. You'll get the most of the protein and most vitamins. And so you can do that with a scrambled egg. Is just you sit over the pan and you just keep scrambling and scrambling with a fairly low heat. You don't want it too hot. And then right at the end, I add in a pat of butter. And so the yolk is still running in there. And then with the butter in there, it's the extra fat and cholesterol. And it's the tastiest thing. But then also I can add whatever spices I want in there. So yeah, as boring as it might be, scrambled eggs is my favorite meal.
Oh, I think that's amazing. And once you say butter, I'm all here for butter.
Right. My dad was a master French chef, and everything in French cooking is all about the sauce and all about butters. And I'm like, my dad is passed on. But it's like, oh man, I'm bringing it back. Like, oh man, Dad was right all these times. I need to up the butter and up the sauce. So.
So since you're living in your bus now, which I want to talk about that for a second here too. Mm-hmm. Before we get to that, like, how are you cooking in your bus? Do you have like a little range going on in there?
So the bus right now is kind of like, it's phase 1, and I don't have a plumbing system. I don't have propane hookup, which I will in the future. But for now, it's the best way I can describe it is it's like camping. I don't have a bathroom or shower and lots of the amenities. So what I've been making is, I love making sauerkraut, so I don't need much for that. I just need a cutting board, bowl, and so I've been making sauerkraut on the road, which is a nice thing. I like if I stop at a friend's house, I give them a jar of wild fermented sauerkraut. I make bulletproof coffee. So for that, I have like a little camp candle burner that you get at REI just to heat up a pot of water. And so I brew my French press coffee, and then I put the butter and coconut oil in a mason jar and I shake it up. Instead, I don't have a blender. But then I have apple cider vinegar and stuff. So I pickle. I've been picking a lot of stuff that I find at farm stands. Just a really quick pickle, just part water, part apple cider vinegar. I'll toss radishes in there, which totally fine to have on your own. But now if I put it in with the apple cider vinegar and a little salt, I got electrolytes. I've got little probiotics from the apple cider vinegar, and then it'll kind of break down the radishes as well. So it just lots of really simple cooking like that. Yeah.
So how long do you plan on staying in the bus?
That is a good question. I mean, it's indefinite at this point. I've been getting offers to go cook in retreats across the country, and like offers and talking about with people and stuff. But it's for right now, it seems like it's going to be at least a couple of years.
Oh, cool. Well, I mean, if you're an online coach, then you pretty much just can work from anywhere then.
Yeah.
And pick up do you want to pick up some of these catering jobs and stuff? Is that exciting for you, or is that something that you're just going to need to do to make ends meet?
They're all the cooking jobs and catering jobs are all kind of just icing on the cake, gravy, whatever you want to call it. It's a little bit extra. I mean, one of my passions is, is cooking for other people, and as somebody who's worked in a kitchen professionally, I can tell you that is like it's one of the toughest things in the world. You're doing this thing. You're actually taking like the time to prepare a meal, whether it's for yourself or for other ones, that anybody can do. And it's like in a lot of ways, we don't really thank the people who make our food. And so when you do it with love and care, I think it's like one of the greatest gifts you can give people. And so I love cooking for people when I get to hand them the food and see how they enjoy it, and if we get to talk about it, and if they're interested in food. If someone, I've been offered a lot of money by people who could fly me around, that aren't interested in food the way I am. And it's like, okay, thank you. I'm not interested in cooking for you, or maybe you pay me more and then I'll be more interested. But I do love cooking for people. So if there's an option to People are like, yeah, come to this retreat or come to our house and make a meal. And it's usually, if I'm catering for people now, it's with the idea that there's got to be some sort of education. Like I want to teach people. I want to empower people to make better decisions and take back their health, take back their food. So yeah, I do love cooking for people.
So how do
If
you
anybody's
deal?
listening.
How do you deal with clients that, because so many people, including myself in the past, like to have so many issues with food of like, this is good food, this is a bad food category. I have, they hear that I have no control, I'm addicted to sugar. There's just so much, anxiety and stress around food. Like, how do you work with clients around that?
Oh, thank you. That's a good question. So, a lot of it is just having the conversation, and there's a lot of ways to, be frustrated about your relationship with food. For so many years, we were told such bad information. And, for me being a wrestler and this pressure to get into a certain weight class really frustrated the crap out of me, to the point where after wrestling, I was dreaming about having a dad bod. Now it was before they called it the dad bod, but I was like, oh, I can't wait to have a beer gut, because I was so frustrated of eating salads and low fat yogurt and low fat everything. And I was just like, this is not fun. And so, so many times when I hear people like frustrated about food, and it's just this paralysis of choice and over just so much bad information and so much stuff, that for me, it's just let's just keep having a conversation about food. And I can, through the conversations, I can tell people like, all right, I might be talking with somebody for like 3-4 weeks and then be like, hey, it sounds like you don't use much salt. And they're like, no, salt's bad for you. And it's like, no, salt is literally the electrolytes that everybody keeps talking about. And it's important and your body needs it. Or if it's, if a lot of my clients are a lot like me, where I need to hear things more than once. And so to keep reminding people that saturated fat and cholesterol are not dangerous, but actually required by the body. And so to me, it comes down to conversations through healing. And usually if it's somebody who's like frustrated and scared about like getting in the kitchen and cooking, I usually get to remind people, it's like, hey, don't compare yourself to the food you see at a kitchen or a professional chef make. And I hear a lot of people being hard on themselves when they're like, oh, I can't cook, I can't do this. And it's like, even Charlie Brown could make toast, or even he cooked. If you pick one dish and you keep practicing that and you make it good, you go to a party and people are like, oh, you're a good cook. You don't have to know every recipe. You don't have to make it perfect. It's not only is it not useful to compare to yourself to a chef who's been making, at a steakhouse or a vegetarian dish or whatever the dish is. Any chef has made that dozens of times, if not hundreds or thousands of times, and there's a team of people critiquing that behind the scenes. So it's a lot of people I see unneeded pressure and comparing themselves to that, and which I would say, in the kitchen is a great time to experiment. It is a great time to be creative and just have fun, and through usually when I'm training my clients or I'm helping my clients with conversations, I very rarely talk about counting calories. The scale is out. It's not an option. Usually what I'll do with my clients, if they're having difficulties, they're frustrated with their food, I'm like, okay, why don't you go try this sauce? Go try this, or how to scramble eggs. And so it's a chance for them to go try out a recipe. They come back, they tell me how it went, how it tasted. I'm like, great. Now add this to it. So we try and have fun. It's all, when it comes to nutrition, it should always taste good. with it, I fully believe what tastes better for a body, feels more satisfying, is what is more nutritious for us. And what's different for me is going to be different for you. And so the only way is to get back in touch with our instincts and forget about all that useless information that we were told that really hasn't been helping, whether it's eat an apple a day, or stuff that sounds good, but that just really doesn't help us. So it's a lot more of unlearning and getting in touch with the instincts.
I just think nutrition or not nutrition, education around nutrition and food and understanding the food that you're eating and what it's bringing to you is something that a lot of people don't have, and it takes some work because it's not like that's part of your curriculum at school or anything else of like to understand the food you're eating. And for me, a book that kind of was a game changer at the beginning of me trying to, my health and wellness journey was, I don't know if you've read Salt, Sugar, Fat by Michael Moss. And it's about just the food industry. And basically when you're buying packaged foods of like things are, chemically engineered to hit a bliss point and to keep you eating, and what like just understanding when you buy certain foods that it's for sales, it's for marketing, and how to be able to read through that. And I think that having the understanding of that, but then also when you think of whole foods, it can be overwhelming. You're standing in the produce aisle and you're seeing all of these things you're not maybe used to using. It's like, well, I just steamed broccoli by itself sounds like a snooze fest, but I don't really know how to make it in a more interesting way. And I think it seems like where you come in of like, okay, well, here's some ideas of how let's take these whole foods that maybe seem intimidating or boring, and how do we actually make them taste amazing so you're excited to eat these things, so you're not even worried about all this other crap anymore. Yeah.
So let me answer the question you originally in a more kind of direct way that I think your listeners might enjoy. You brought up the example of broccoli.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like eating raw broccoli is something that, raw vegetarians might be useful. Well, the truth of the matter is there's chemical ingredients that naturally grow in broccoli that protects the broccoli from being eaten. And so when you're eating raw broccoli, your body has to digest it. It's a lot of work chewing. And so it's very easy to get tired of eating broccoli really quickly, literally physically in your jaw, but then also your stomach's going to probably get gassy and upset, and it's not working in lots of ways. But now if you steam the broccoli, now it's a lot easier to eat more broccoli. You'll get more of the cruciferous vegetables, the vitamins from green cruciferous vegetables, right? And so it's easier to eat more. It'll be more satisfying. You'll get more of the vitamins. But now if you add a little bit of salt, the ingredients that are going to be, electrolytes, the water soluble vitamins, now you're adding the fat soluble vitamins from the broccoli, however, not much fat, that you'll absorb the moisture in that broccoli more because you have the salt, and your taste buds are letting you know, like a little bit of salt really wakes it up and ready to receive. Now, how could you make that even tastier? Probably put some butter on it.
I thought you were going to say Cheese Whiz or Ranch.
Well, that's the next step.
Okay.
But if you put like a pat of butter on steamed broccoli, and a little bit of salt, now you've got some fat that's going to slow down the digestion, which is, you're getting more calories. You're going to feel fuller. And then that broccoli, you're actually going to absorb more of that fat soluble vitamins because now it's going to be incorporated with that butter in your stomach and all sorts of stuff. And now if you wanted to make it even healthier, you could make like a broccoli cheddar soup. Maybe, depending on how your body deals with lactose, you might want to use a dairy-free version of that. But like blending it with the fat and then you could add spices to that. And then now the spices are going to have fat soluble vitamins that are going to really infuse that broccoli. And so each step, it's just getting in touch with your instincts and testing things out in the kitchen. It's, a recipe is useful for creative ideas, but like knowing these tactics that, fat is something that your body needs and wants, and you're just continually craving. Salt is something that your body wants and needs and is continually craving. But that sugar is addictive, and that sugar is an ingredient that is used in manufacturing, to be addictive, but then it also covers up all sorts of poison and chemicals. Is just really basic things that everybody kind of knows, and maybe they haven't put it into words yet. So having conversations around that, about how do you make food taste better, that's what I get passionate about. I teach people keto, but I've never once recommended anybody use keto strips. It's always like asking what's going on in your body, what do you notice about your hunger, your energy, and all sorts of stuff like that. And it's a slow going process getting in touch with your instincts that way, but I really find it's powerful, and it makes choosing the right food after that a lot easier. You're a lot more empowered to, like, if you're on vacation, you're away from your kitchen, you're like, all right, how do I make this healthier? Well, there's not enough fat on this, I'm just going to pour some olive oil. So I hope that was helpful.
No, it definitely is. So because you have such a passion for cooking, I mean, do you have any cookbooks? Have you thought about doing cookbooks or anything around that?
So the bus project is also with the idea that I would be writing a lot more and writing books. I'm in the third generation of my website, and my website had a lot of recipes on it. The first recipe I wrote actually was aioli, how to make mayonnaise, which was one of the first things that Primal Kitchen, Mark Sisson, his stuff, they made mayonnaise. I was pretty proud of that. But yeah, I do have a cookbook in the works that we'll be talking about, like, probably very few recipes, but with lots of options and variations off of it, to kind of really not teach people recipes, but teach people skills.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I feel like I could definitely use that, where I'm so interested by cooking and definitely nutrition, but then I feel like my creativity only goes so far in that arena, where I wish I could get better at that. But then I guess the only way I just have to put the work into it. And instead of wishing for it, just actually working for it. But then I just feel like, I kind of get into my ruts and rhythms, and then kind of find the things I like, and then just kind of hover there for a while, and don't really go out and like just wild branches that often.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to have the rhythm of, like, you're going to put the time and energy in for the next couple of months of really learning more about the nutrition. But then it's really nice to take a seat back and be like, all right, I've been working on my nutrition for a little bit. I'm going to just let that coast and keep eating the same thing. Or maybe I'm going to be like, it's summer. I generally like to drink more micro beers in the summer, taking a break from it. So it sounds like you're definitely doing a great job, Amanda.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm sure you'll learn the tips you want from nutrition sooner or later.
So does that make it harder for you to be able to experiment and do those things with the way you're limited in the bus right now?
It is. But I think limitations spawn creativity. So I'll give you like a little description of like what I've got so far. I've got a couple of oils and fats, for cooking and stuff, because that's one thing I found that, if I pop up at a friend's house or a catering gig, people, like, if you're not interested in your nutrition, it's pretty easy to just get like poor quality fats, vegetable oils, and even poor olive oils. So for me, it was a no-brainer. I need to have avocado oil for cooking. I have an extra virgin olive oil from a farm I used to work on, and then I buy high quality butters. And then also I have lots of salts. I have pink Himalayan sea salts. I have finishing salts and stuff like that. So it's those two ingredients. I can generally walk into anybody's kitchen and really make stuff that's quite nutritious that they're probably not used to. And then from there, I have the ingredients to make bulletproof coffee. That's kind of one of my basics just about every morning. If there is a poor tendency I have, it's definitely that I just like drinking coffee every day. It's my morning routine. I've been trying to switch it out some mornings for cacao, but the coffee is just it's just easier for me.
I'm with you there. And then you add coffee and then butter, and I'm like, I'm a slut for both those two things. So then I'm here for it.
Yeah. So I've been I'm gonna add a YouTube video for this soon, but my bulletproof coffee, I make it with powdered green vegetables. I generally don't care for things that come in powders. I'm trying to get my nutrients through whole foods, and it's nothing against people who are using smoothies or protein shakes. I mean, I think in our hustle culture environment, there are appropriate times to have like a meal that is a beverage, a smoothie, and there are lots of ways to do it. But for me, I try not to, but with green vegetables in the coffee, I think it's a nice way for me to even just like start with green vegetables on my day. But I also have collagen powder, and the green vegetables I use, powdered green, it's like chocolate flavored, mocha flavored, and then what else? A little bit of turmeric and some cayenne. So it's butter, coconut oil, and then my mixture of all those powders together. It's a great way to start off every day, where it feels like I'm starting off every day with dessert. So that's what I've been making so far. I've been making sauerkraut in my bus, which is pretty cool. I'm a little nervous. I make it in a clay crock, and so I'm driving around with a clay crock of fermenting vegetables that are already kind of stinking up the bus. But I'm a little nervous if I hit a bump too fast, is it going to crack and stuff? But it hasn't done that yet.
So back to backtrack a little bit, what made you decide that you wanted to live in a bus?
Well, I love adventures. I think if you're living life and you don't have an occasional adventure, whether it's it could be traveling across the world, but it could also be, going into a grocery store and having a conversation with a stranger, and you don't know where that conversation is going to go.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think adventures are an important part of life. And I really do love to travel. I love the road trip. But every time, the problem was I had to sacrifice my sleeping in weird, different spots. I had lots of friends, and then I go to visit my friends, and I had no problem staying on couches, but it would always just mess up my sleep. So I was like, all right, it'd be really nice if I just could bring my own bed. And obviously, I'm really passionate about cooking and making delicious food. So now on a bus, I can take my kitchen with me. And even, this small version of a kitchen that I have now, where I just got high quality fats and a bunch of options with salt and some vegetables that I pick up along the way at farmers markets and stuff like that. It's been great. So it's really to protect my sleep and make my food as I go along on my adventures. And then I guess thirdly is really challenging. I had to teach myself electrical engineering, basically, when I built my solar system. I got to be really creative and kind of piece things together. I made my front door, which is exciting to me. It's like my grandfather really built the house that he lived in, and I was like, well, I help people for a living. I don't know how much I'm going to be able to make, to actually build my own house. And now at a tiny home, I get to build my own house, and I got to build the front door. And talk about working through challenges and limiting beliefs. Everybody I talked to about how do you build a door was like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
I'm not even kidding. I was looking at the hardware at Home Depot, and 2 or 3 people are coming up to me and like, what are you doing? You're building your own door? And I'm like, no, you shouldn't do that. You should buy this door. You should buy that door. And I'm like, no, I'm building a door. I'm not buying a door. And it was the entire time building the door, I'm like, oh no, I did this wrong. Oh, this isn't going to work. And, but I just kept moving forward. And now I have this beautiful door. It's the coolest part of the bus. Everybody compliments me on the door.
See, I think that, not to interrupt you, but that is speaking my language so much right now, because I'm really been working on trying to trust my own intuition, kind of like what you're saying. And especially, starting a new career. And I started my own business at the beginning of 2020 and doing that now and getting so much advice from other people, which has been amazing, of people that want to help me and give me advice. But everybody has a different way of like, this is what you should be doing. This is what you should not be doing. And you're getting a pile of all those. And instead of, I'm having a hard time of like, well, but this is what I want to do. And I want to do things kind of differently, but is that the wrong way? And you're getting confused between you and your brain and your intuition versus everybody else who's just genuinely trying to help. And how do you sift through just listening to yourself and trusting in yourself? And that is hard work.
Yeah.
But it worked for you. You got a beautiful door. You just kind of like listened and stuck to what felt good for you. And then it worked out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, one thing that is, you were hitting the point. I can't tell you how many people walk into my bus and tell me, you should do this, you should do that. And it's like, the truth comes out. I was like, oh, are you crafty in electrical work, or are you a tradesperson? They're like, no, I watched a YouTube video on bus life.
I saw a TikTok.
Yeah. It's like clockwork with the bus in particular. Is like people step on the bus like, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that. And after so much of it, it was like, I like it definitely gets frustrating, but it is work to be like, no, that's your idea. You stepped onto the bus. I told you about the idea, and then you're already automatically telling me I'm wrong, and that you've got better ideas. Well, lo and behold, I've been working on this for years, so I think I'm going to work with my own ideas. But it's tough. It's work to call that out, recognize it, and get through it. So yeah, it's kudos to you for getting through it. But here's what I've noticed as more of this project keeps coming together is like, and I've definitely dealt with depression in the past, but I feel like I'm getting more and more energy. It's like there's as I tick things off of tasks to do and I see it come together, I keep more promises to myself of like, all right, I'm going to build a door, and maybe I won't build a door, but I'm going to try and build a door. It's been, it's like, I feel like there's like less of my subconscious working on these dreams and these projects. And then, so as they come to fruition, I can go back to doing the work I do for my clients and writing more and cooking more. And so whether it's going to work out, I have no idea, but I like each step that I get done, it's like, it's its own reward in ways that I was guessing, and then ways I really didn't even understand.
Yeah, I just think that's absolutely amazing. And going back to trusting yourself and to kind of even pulling that back to our earlier conversation about, nutrition and health, that, so many people are dogmatic in their ideas of like, well, this is the right way to do this, and this is the right way you should eat, and this is what we should do. And then it's like, but you have to kind of tune into what you like and what feels really good. And I think just having that self-awareness of like, this is what's fueling me and makes me feel really awesome. And I think that once you can kind of hone in on what feels like is serving you best, then it's kind of easier to tune out those other opinions, or just not hold on to them so much, to be like, that's awesome, thank you for the advice, but I got to do me. And I think that that's part of the growing process and just finding, I would say that's finding health too. You're finding mental health in that, and actually just trusting yourself and figuring out what works best for you through experimentation, and what works for you won't necessarily work for anybody else.
Yeah. It's you're right. It's a lot of experimentation. I mean, I love drawing diagrams and scales, and or if I was going to build a project, I would probably draw it out a bunch of times. But with the bus, I was never able to really do that because everything was so frustrating. I'm like, I don't know how this is going to work. I don't know how this is going to feel. But now that I'm in it, and I picked up a Lazy Susan on the side of the road, and now that's my kitchen countertop. And it was so perfect that it was just like, oh, I'm gonna pick it up, and it was more exciting for me to put it in the bus, knowing that I'm gonna take it out, and it's just a great excuse to try something, and I'll be able to tell if I like it or not like it really quick. But I think you're hitting the nail on the head. Is what really allowed me to trust my intuition was just testing things out.
Yeah.
And that's totally how I encourage my clients, is like, how do you know what you don't like if you don't test it out? Test out recipes or if you like olives or whatever it is.
So when somebody hires you to be their coach, kind of walk me through that process. What does that look like once they make the decision to team up?
Well, thank you. It's usually starts with a free conversation. We'll get on the phone and just talk, and they'll tell me about their dreams, their passions. And if I can't help them, I'll let them know. It's I'm a burner. I've been to Burning Man a bunch of times, and those principles are pretty important to me. And so two that come in handy for the initial call is consent and gifting. And so on that first call, I'm trying to say the one thing that'll really help them and charge them on their path, whether they hire me or not. But then also there's consent, and they're consenting to a free call. They're not consenting to a hard sale, and they're not consenting to get pestered on all sorts of things, and they're not consenting to accepting my help. And so those are two things I keep in mind for my first call. But then through that, people can really experience what it's like to work with me as a coach, and maybe I say some things that will help them. But at that point, if they're willing to go further, I ask for a 4-month commitment, and it's just talking once a week. Each time we talk, we talk about what's going well, what's slowing them down in reaching their dreams, accomplishing greater health or happiness. And then we talk about the plan for the week coming up. And so that's one thing I find is so useful, just a regular reflection of what's working well, what's not working well, what's the plan ahead. And so journaling is a big thing that I recommend for everyone. But all my clients get reminded this every week. Are you journaling that? And I think everybody can ask themselves on those 3 questions each week. What's working well? What's slowing you down? What's the plan for going ahead? And so, if you journal about that, you've got your own life coach. You are your own life coach. But when you share that with somebody else, a professional who really knows how to listen and isn't going to just walk onto your bus and tell you how to do it. Because even if, I know a lot about nutrition, a lot about health, my clients know more about their health than I do. And I can, even after talking with them for years. So my job really is to listen, ask the same questions over and over again about, are you living up to your goals? What's going well? What's not going well? And then every once in a while, I do have a lot of life hacks and tricks, and it sounds like you just need to have more salt in your diet or fat in your diet, or I think you'll really like cilantro or journaling or whatever it is. And so I do have a lot of tricks and tools like that. And then it switches from the beginning part of the coaching from educating, but then holding people accountable. And then I get to be I get to be there while people grow and live their dreams and do things that they maybe didn't realize they were capable of. And so I get to be people's best friend. I get to be their best fan. It's just so rewarding. I love it.
That's awesome. So if someone is listening to this and they're interested in learning more, having that free conversation with you, how do they find you?
Well, on Instagram, I'm lazy_bachelor_nutrition. I picked that name for that as I was giving lectures on nutrition, and when you're giving a lecture on nutrition, everybody's like asking you all like the tough questions. And, if I'm answering every tough question about like, this is, less inflammatory than this, this is better for your cardio than this. People will assume that you do all of those things all of the time. And that's not the case. I'm still a compulsive eater after years of binging from wrestling, years of working in restaurants and all sorts of stuff. I've got a habit of stress eating. And so I'm very compulsive eater, and I don't always eat the right things, and I like microbrews. I forget the point there. Oh, the lazy bachelor nutrition. So I'm not trying to be the person who is living the healthiest life. I'm trying to make it as easy to live a healthy life is my goal. So that's the lazy bachelor nutrition. It's kind of like a counterculture to the hustle culture.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Do you have a website up now?
I do. It's LaBonteNutrition.com. LaBonte being my last name, and it's actually it means the goodness or the good earth. So when I was picking the name for my company, it was like kind of a no-brainer. Like, oh yeah, so stepping into the role that my ancestors chose for me. And so LaBonteNutrition.com. So it's spelled LABONTE nutrition.com.
Awesome. And so Illinois today in the bus, what's the next stop?
I'm still kind of zigzagging. I was planning on being in Colorado, Telluride, Colorado, which is where I met Natalie a couple of years ago. Hello, Natalie, if you're listening. So I'm gonna go there. I haven't been there in a while, so I'm excited to see some friends, catch up with there. But then after that, I really want to see the Pacific Northwest. I haven't got to spend much time up there. Hopefully there's some music festivals in my future this summer. And I'm definitely going to be bringing a bus to celebrate Burning Man, whether it's at the spot of Black Rock City or somewhere else with other friends. And then in the fall, I'm actually entertaining the idea of shipping the bus out to Hawaii.
Oh my gosh.
In the past year, I've gotten through some wonderful university experiences. I got connected with this wonderful men's work group called Sacred Sons. And they've been huge, a big benefit in my own healing journey, doing men's work. And it's kind of more of a passion of mine, actually. So we're folding that in as well. But I have the potential opportunity to go help manage on a farm and help run retreats and actually, just work on an organic farm. So there's a lot of opportunities for me, and it's I'm in the wonderful situation where I gotta pick from a lot of great options. So all that to be said is, I really don't know.
It's awesome. Oh man. Well, I mean, I've loved getting to know you, and you are welcome on this podcast anytime to talk about all of your journeys and your knowledge. And I've loved having you on. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. This has been wonderful. I really, I hope we do make another point to talk again. It's been lovely getting to know you and sharing with you and all your listeners. Thank you. Really special.
For info on health coaching and more, go to AmandaValentineBites.com.